Yup, your eyes do not deceive you. The old anime abandoned chair has been replaced. The old girl was in utter disrepair, so we had to part ways. But for now, a moment of reflection for old Betsy. Holy crap, is this velvet? Huh. Oh! She will be missed, I guess. But that's not important right now. What is important is that we talk about my first and favorite Gundam series, 0083 Stardust Memory. Yes, during the first year of the Adult Swim action block, a very young and impressionable 12-year-old sage tuned in to find a bevy of soon-to-be anime classics. And pilot candidate. Among your Cowboy Bebops, Outlaw Stars, and Tenchi Muyos laid a bewitching title with the evocative name Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory. At the time, I knew of Gundam, and I knew that it was a massive franchise, but I didn't know how big it truly was, nor did I have a means to watch anything from it until I finally got Cartoon Network in 2002. And I'll be honest, I didn't get it. Sure, seeing robots flying around in space and have laser battles is cool enough to any preteen boy out there, but the seemingly endless chatter between the characters about Zeon and the Federation, it was completely lost on a total newbie like I used to be. And yet, I kept watching the show. To this day, I still can't tell you what compelled me to keep with the series other than it was Adult Swim and I was here for the anime block. But I can tell you why the series stayed with me. And why after all this time, it still remains my favorite. And no, it has little to do with the fact that it was my first Gundam. Originally released over the course of a year, starting in 1991, Stardust Memory is a 13-episode OVA series that acts as a sort of bridge that connects the events from the original Mobile Suit Gundam to Zeta Gundam, the first sequel in the franchise. Because of that, 0083 shares much in common with 8th MS Team, both being relegated to being the middle child, as it were, between tentpoles that hold the entire canon up. And just like 8th MS Team, 0083 has a big ol' butt attached to its existence, once again backpedaling any kind of praise it garners for itself. Except here, the drawback is much more substantial and way harder to ignore. Which is why when I say it's my favorite Gundam, the usual response I get is... really? I must admit that I feel a bit of trepidation with this episode, not necessarily because I'm going to attempt to defend a favorite of mine from its missteps, numerous and valid as they admittedly are, nor is it because I feel any kind of shame for liking something that's unpopular, as the comments under my 8th MS review have echoed a lot of my sentiments toward 0083. It's because... well, it's new territory for me. I'm just not used to having to acknowledge the criticisms that a favorite anime of mine has rightfully garnered, and believe me, we will be going over every single one of these said criticisms. But at the end of the day, the ability to do so is a sign of having a healthy attitude toward your own fandom. You have to be able to look at what you love and acknowledge its problems, and then reserve the right to say, I love it anyway. And I think that's going to be the presiding theme of this episode. So, it's time for me to face some harsh truths. This is Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory. 4 years have passed since the One-Year War, and the Federation has been enjoying the peace that has surrounded the colonies. Still, the specter of war never truly loses sight of the present. You know, because war never changes. And as the Federation assault carrier, the Albion, takes on precious cargo in the form of 2 experimental Gundams, they become the target of a radical cell of Zeon loyalists, still clinging on to the hope that the war can be won.
You're the linchpin here, Commander. We need you to be careful.
You must be Orville, so all you could find was a lieutenant's uniform for me?
Sorry about that, Commander.
Well, I guess it doesn't change who I really am.
Like the lion with a thorn in its paw, the Federation has dealt a blow by a small, crafty, and determined clutch of Zeon soldiers, having made off with one of the 2 Gundams equipped with a nuclear warhead. Surely this grand theft must have something to do with the rumblings of the ominously entitled Operation Stardust. But how does this stolen Gundam, dubbed the GPO-2, figure into this plan? And will it have something to do with dropping a colony on Earth like pretty much every other plot of Gundam? Of course it will!
Accelerating like that, the colony will... it will leave the lunar orbit, and this time be drawn in by the Earth's gravity.
I was debating with myself if this constitutes a spoiler, but if that were true, then saying Lex Luthor's plan to kill Superman involves kryptonite as a spoiler. Like, duh? I guess you can't blame the Federation for not wising up because this is only the second time this has happened if we went by continuity. But come on, over the course of the Universal Century timeline, somebody either dropped or attempted to drop a colony on Earth 5 times. Once in Mobile Suit Gundam, once here, once in Double Zeta, and twice in Char's counterattack. Hell, this plot point was used extensively outside the timeline too in Gundam Wing, After War Gundam X, Gundam Seed Destiny. It's like Gundam villains can't come up with a different insidious plan. Oh, except in Gundam Zeta. They tried to drop a colony on the moon! Totally different. Still, the only real criticism you can lay at 0083 is that it draws from the well, which is actually pretty emblematic of my feelings toward the anime. But we'll get back to that. In the meantime, let us introduce ourselves to Ensign Ko Araki, our way above his head protagonist and test pilot for the Federation.
And my pal over here is Ensign Ko Araki. Hey Ko, this is Nina. Ko?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, Araki is... well... how do I put it?
We're in the middle of a battle here and you start giving speeches!
You're a soldier here, aren't you? If you want to be more than just a grunt, you better learn to see the whole picture.
Yes, sir.
Huh? Oh. I'm the enemy, you idiot!
He's special. Bless his soul. He's not dumb, he is after all a technical wonderkin that can make sharp observations about the mobile suits before him, but he is completely out of his element and prone to quick action without much in the way of forethought, which causes him to make a lot of dumb mistakes and say dumb things. Which I suppose is a form of dumbness, because, after all, stupid is as stupid does. But to me, this doesn't make him an idiot, it makes him dopey and naive, and normally I would find this kind of characterization to be obnoxious. But because it seems that everyone around him chides and scolds him for being so dopey, it feels like that is the point of his character, blunt as it is. And it's not like he's far from being redeemable, let alone likable. He takes his duty seriously and strives to do the right thing, but just like your classic Gundam protagonist, he doesn't always know what that means, which paves way for the tried and true coming-of-age story, where he winds up maturing and learning as the series progresses, though by the end of it all, he doesn't really mature or learn enough. Gundam has always leaned on this kind of story ever since its inception, and here in 0083, it's taken to the nth degree just by how clueless Araki can be. In fact, I would dare say Araki's character arc borders on comedy in some instances, from his many mental mistakes and issues down to the fact that the guy literally lost a fight to a one-armed man.
Kelly, stop it!
I mean, yeah, as a protagonist we're supposed to sympathize with, he can't always come out on top all the time, but come on! Charlie Brown would walk all over this guy. He's just such a dipshit half the time, and he's constantly being accosted for being a dipshit that you kind of wind up feeling sorry for him. And if it weren't for how the ending was a garbled mess, his arc might have rung with a bittersweet resonance befitting the sympathy. But again, we'll get back to that, because for every Amuro, we need a Char. And Char here is Anavel Gato, the complete diametric opposite of Araki in nearly every way. Where Araki is a rookie pilot that mostly coasts on his luck and his technical knowledge, Gato is the best damned ace that Zeon still has.
Carius, I ask, am I doing the right thing? Coming back here with the grieving souls of the lost wander? Aren't I just standing upon the sacrifices of so many others?
And he's also a bloviating, purple prose-laden windbag. I'm sure I'm being ironic. It's not necessarily out of the realm of standard characterization for our fellow despots, but man alive, it really does feel like old Gato here just cannot wait to show you what book he's been working on between his shifts at Pete's Coffee. Not unlike a certain book available on Amazon. You whore. But the real problem with the character isn't that he uses $10 words to make himself highfalutin. It's that there really isn't much else to the character. He disappears almost for the entire second act of the anime, as the story chooses instead to focus on, well, anyone else aligned with Zeon, leaving Gato to basically wait in the wings until the inevitable happens. He's just there, really. Thankfully, the supporting cast is just fantastic on both the Federation and Zeon sides of the conflict. Araki's wingmen run the gamut of friendly cohorts to full-on raging pricks, and they all flesh out the story and help breathe life into it by the minutiae of their interactions. Araki's best friend Chuck Keith, for example, provides a nice bit of levity to the story, and provides a much-appreciated slap to the face to Araki when he needs it. Though I must admit, my fondness for Chuck lies mostly in the fact that he's one half of probably the cutest couple in Gundam history.
Hey, nobody likes a guy who comes on too strong, kid. A date? Be glad to. We could go dancing if you like, as long as you never let go of my hand. Or we could grab a beer and see the sunset.
She is Mora Bosch, one of the mechanics on the Albion, and she and Chuck together are just adorable. Look at them! God, if Mora wanted to be the little spoon, they'd look like Luke training on Dagobah.
That's what's known as a jetpack, Sage, and trust me, only the most fearless and intrepid of men dare attempt it.
Really suave. You're down for tall women?
Of course, Sage. I'm always looking for a rocketeer. How else will I fly to the moon and play among the stars?
I am genuinely taken aback by how involving the story of the Albion's crew trying to track down the stolen GPO-2 can truly be, and that has little to do with the story itself, and everything to do with the characters and how the anime portrays their individual idiosyncrasies. Without me even telling you what is going on in this particular conversation that I'm showing right now, you can obviously tell what the mood of the conversation is and what these two characters, Captain Synapse and Lieutenant Burning, are talking about.
If this battle we're going into with Delaz is my last one as a pilot, I don't want my career ended with regrets.
That makes two of us. Well, we're scheduled to rendezvous with the supply ship soon.
0083 never ceases to amaze me by just how many little moments it creates that add so much to the story and characters and setting. The way the lieutenant is so visibly concerned and uncomfortable, the way actor Simon Isaacson grunts as he hunkers up to his feet, obviously burdened with age as befitting the topic of their conversation, it's exquisite. And it's not just the animation or performances that help bring these little moments out, it's the script and also the direction. One of my favorite subtle moments is when one of the main supporting characters, Nina Purpleton, head engineer that designed both experimental Gundams, is having a conversation with her father over the video phone.
That's why I hate vid phones. They only make me feel like I'm there. Nina, come home and live with us. New Antwerp is really not so bad.
Not only is that a great line, they only make me feel like I'm there, it's actually way more true than even the character realizes. Nina is obviously concerned about something and she's obviously avoiding talking about it with her dad, but because he's on the video phone instead of there with her, he doesn't realize it. Damn, that is some good writing. Not only that, it really speaks volumes to what one of the directors, Mitsuko Kase, really added to the anime. During the production of 0083, the directorial responsibilities was shared between two people, Kase, who is mostly a storyboard artist by credit, and Takashi Imanishi, with Kase taking the first half of the series and Imanishi having the second. That Kase is a storyboard artist by trade really should surprise no one, considering that the best singular shots in 0083 are all in the first half. While I fully admit that I am a sucker for this kind of breed of anime aesthetic, I will still make the statement that 0083 is by far and away the most beautifully drawn and animated Gundam there has ever been, and that is due in no small part to Kase. There are just so many poetically beautiful, vibrantly realized shots that speak so much to what the characters are feeling that you can immediately tell what those feelings are even without context. It's visual storytelling realized and expertly done. And sure, while the animation is technically sound and impressive during the fight scenes, especially for the era, it's the little touches that come and go that are where the true pearls lie. Details like Chuck literally straining his neck to peer up for the first time at GPO-1, or how Nina, obviously uncomfortable at being accosted at lunch, silently shifts the mess off her meal. Don't get me wrong, for an anime that really prioritized the details, there is still the odd choice and slip-up here and there. Oh gee, oh gosh, I am so parched. Might I jaunt over to the vending machine here for a nice refreshing Dold Rink? And afterward, we can all go out to see Shining Blue Fire in concert.
You mean Shining?
Shh!
You wanna get sued?
But these moments only really stand out to me because the rest of the anime is just so dedicated to focusing on these small, granular details. And really, it's these kinds of details that lesser anime wouldn't even bother with. But because this much care and precision was present in the making of the anime, it makes it that much more enriching to invest in what is going on. The story itself of Araki overcoming his own insecurities and learn to soldier up and fight the good fight is old hat, especially for the franchise. But the way 0083 tells itself, it's veritable fresh paint. But all of these praises come from a seasoned mind that learned to appreciate these details. What did initially grab my attention back in 2002? Well, that question's easy. It's opening. I put it to you that this song here, The Winner, is not only the best opening song in Gundam franchise history, it's also the most underrated opening song in all of anime. This should be on everybody's top 10 list, and the only reason why it's not is probably because they don't know. It's catchy but intricate, with a bouncing, sparkling synthesizer riff that truly singles itself out as unique, not only as an opening, but as a song in general. It just worms its way into your brain, and once you've listened to it for the first time, you'll never forget it. But as you may recall, I am on my back foot here. And that's because Gundam 0083 is an anime of two halves. The first half is where most of the praise for 0083 lies, and the second half is where all the baggage is, not the least of which is all its story hang-ups, specifically revolving around the convoluted plan that is Operation Stardust. You already know that Operation Stardust is ultimately just a plan to crash a colony into Earth, but the way that Zeon goes about executing said plan is, well, circuitous, to put it lightly. I won't go into specifics for spoiler reasons, but suffice it all to say, the end result is a patchwork quilt of double and triple crosses, the likes of which not even Hideo Kojima could keep up with. And because of that, the finale is the mother of all clusters, where you're not even sure if you should be cheering someone's death or not. It's the very definition of a peck-and-paw ending. What's worse is that the initial setup to the story, with Zeon ostensibly stealing a tactical nuclear warhead, has a much more promising and fruitful plot than what the anime eventually went with.
It is obvious this Gundam was developed for the sole purpose of a nuclear attack. This machine is a clear violation of the Antarctic Treaty.
Why did the Federation commission developer Anaheim Electronics to make a Gundam capable of firing nuclear warheads anyway? If the war with Zeon is over, there isn't any reason at all, and Zeon are more than within their right to look at that and cry foul. There is just so much room for an intriguing story about war and politics with such a setup, but they just don't. I feel that this is supposed to have some kind of commentary about the futility of trying to structure a narrative around war, seeing as how neither side really wins at the end. But considering how it began, this is a tonal 180. And the fact that the story contorted itself in such a way to basically explain the existence of the Titans, the future, according to the continuity antagonists of Gundam Zeta, makes the ending feel completely hollow. I suppose you could charitably call the story an ending bittersweet, but that would ignore not only the dissatisfaction of where the story goes, but also the character arcs that crash and burn.
Huh?
Coward. Nina!
Yep, we're finally talking about the one singular character that is the albatross across the entire OVA's neck, Nina Purpleton. At first, Nina is a model 80s businesswoman, technically minded and rocking a set of padded shoulders wide enough for an NFL kicker to completely miss wide right. God damn the season. And as befitting an 80s businesswoman, she has no time for romance. That is, until she does.
Don't worry. I'm putting my whole heart into tuning up the Gundam. For your sake, of course.
Honestly, I can't think of one single romance that works in Gundam. It's always the weakest part of the story, and it truly feels like the only reason why they keep trotting it out is because they've always been trotting it out. But here in 0083, the love story, as it were, is made all the more frustrating and confusing by it turning into a love triangle out of nowhere, and it compromises Nina as a character, which is a damn shame because outside of this whole hokey soap opera crap, Nina was a refreshing character. She only really cared about her project, and seeing her baby in the hands of a rookie pilot understandably causes her frustration. But then, as the series progresses, she just becomes a cloying, love-stricken idiot. It's a letdown, to be sure. And speaking of letdowns, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a particular Gundam. Again, trying to avoid spoilers as best I can, toward the end of the series, Anaheim Electronics developed a third prototype Gundam called the GPO-3, and it's got dang ridiculous. I truly feel like Sunrise designed the GPO-3 basically as a middle finger to all the gunpla manufacturers out there. Which is another shame, because another strength of 0083 is its superb technical design, with some fantastically cool looking Gundams and mobile suits. But then this misshapen cancer sort of a Gundam comes farting in and I can't stop giggling. I mean, is it supposed to be intimidating? Thing looks like a bootleg pinata of Metal Gear Rex. But you know what? Everything I've talked about, from the GPO-3 to the characters and the opening, it all really feels like that is what Gundam is. It feels like 0083 is like the perfect distillation of what a Gundam anime entails. I mean, let's not kid ourselves into thinking that any franchise, let alone Gundam, isn't without its crutches or tropes, and whether or not a singular entry in a franchise succeeds mostly depends on what it does with them. And personally speaking, Gundam 0083 personifies this notion perfectly. Everything about it is Gundam, from the plot to the characters, to its art style and animation. Stardust memory is what Gundam is all about. Well, at least for a time. And I guess that's why I feel like 0083 is my favorite. It's the only entry in the franchise that I can point to as to what makes Gundam, Gundam. For all the good and bad that means. Sure, I'll fully cop to the fact that it being my first does have a slight hand in making it my favorite, but there's just so many little details and nuances to the show that I'd still love 0083 if I just watched it for the first time last month. And the fact that you can use it as a sort of litmus test to see if Gundam appeals to you or not is a very special thing, because make no mistake, if you can like Stardust Memory despite all of its flaws and appreciate what it did and what it tried to achieve, then you can like Gundam. But Gundam as a franchise didn't get where it is now without going off the beaten path every now and then. And for the last episode of 2018, we're finally going down that road. Merry Christmas. Till next time.